Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. Okay, so spoiler season keeps on going, even on the weekends, but also with that, come over here real quick.
A leak. Don't tell him. A leak. Wizard, something is leaking.
Let's jump into it first off with that leak again. This card is not confirmed to be legitimate, but it looks very legitimate, and if it is, this is going to be a really cool card to play and a very powerful one. It is Nature's Rhythm, a sorcery for X green. Search your life for a creature card with mana value X or less on the battlefield, then shuffle, but that's not all. No? Okay, anyone? All right, harmonize for X green, which means a brand new mechanic. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its harmonized cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce that cost by an amount of generic mana equal to its power, then exile this spell. So this is a very powerful effect, obviously. I mean, literally, if you just have 6 mana, this could just be a combo card, essentially, because if you've got 6 mana, and all green, I should say, that's pretty specific, but still, if you're in a mono green deck, yeah, you're basically like tooth and nailing, kind of in a way. Because, well, I guess you need more mana than that for the X. Okay, never mind, more than 6 mana for that X, but still, with the harmonized part, you can freely, essentially, add in whatever power you get out of the creature that you tutor up, which, again, in green can be quite a lot of power. Like, if you put 5 into that X, right, that's 7 mana in total, you can, like, Gigantosaurus, and there you go, you've got a 10/10. Or, of course, if you already have a creature in play that has a ton of power, yeah, it can already help me harmonize as well. If you've got ways to double up power, ways to just get even additional power, like anthems, etc., you can activate that, harmonize, again, right away quite quickly, and get, again, 2 creatures in play right away. So, again, this can be like a game-ending play. I mean, at a base level, though, just oh, sure, like, go ahead and just Court of Calling. Not instant speed, not, with Convoke, but, just regular Court of Calling just for 2 mana. It's sorcery speed, for the X. That's already a powerful thing to tutor up a creature, get it right into play. But also then having the replayability out of your graveyard like a flashback and be able to reduce that cost, that is huge. So again, if this is real, this card I can definitely see seeing a good amount of play. And yeah, again, with the right amount of mana, you are in green, of course, you can ramp quite quickly. Again, it could be a combo card in and of itself, kind of like Tooth and Nail, where you're like, okay, I tutor up my one card, which tutors up my other one, and all of a sudden, I just win. So there you go. A very interesting card indeed, if it's real. Again, just take everything I say with a grain of salt with this one until you actually see that's real. Next up, one that is most definitely real, and it's going to be a real heavy hitter, a very cool card. We've got Naga Fleshcrafter, a 0/0 snake shapeshifter for 4 mana in blue. You may have this creature enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. So basically, at its least, it's, a clone. Essentially, at the very least, it's a clone. Then it says renew, though, for 2 and a blue, exile from your graveyard, put a counter on target non-ledger creature you control. Each other creature control becomes a copy of that creature of turn, activate only as a sorcery. That is pretty huge, actually. That is a really, really cool effect. So, at a base level, again, this is literally just clone. This is just clone plus. Again, the power creep on clone has happened for a long, long time, obviously. But they're just seeing clone and then seeing, an actual extra ability. And again, this clone literally costs, the exact same amount, even to, like, the pips, essentially, right? But now we're just having this extra ability just for 3 mana, which can be a massive game-ending, amazing ability. Absolutely so cool. It's kind of like Mirrorweave, but out of your graveyard and just for your creatures, but still being able to say, oh, okay, picture this, okay? Like, you've got an Aristocrat-style deck, all right? Let's just say that, all right? You've got an Aristocrat-style deck. You've got this in your graveyard, right? You've got a Blood Artist in play and a bunch of, creature fodder tokens, all right? You renew this out of your graveyard, and you make every single one of your creatures into a copy of Blood Artist, essentially. And all of a sudden, you just need, like, 1 sacrifice outlet in play. Like, you throw down, like, a Viserys or whatever afterwards, or a different sacrifice outlet that is free. You start sacrificing things, and your opponents are gone because you've got, like, 12 Blood Artists in play. Or, again, if you cast, like, a Wrath at that point, they'll do the exact same thing. So, yeah, this is definitely a card that, again, can just be a very solid utility piece. Obviously, in any kind of a clone strategy, it's going to love it. But, yeah, also on top of that, just being like surprise, potential, crazy win condition, or just like, oh, okay, I've got, like, a Mana Dork in play, and I've got, like, a ton of creature tokens. Maybe, like, Avenger of Zendikar kind of thing came into play. Okay, I've got, like, 12 creature tokens. All right, I'd like some more mana. Let's just get this out of my graveyard, make everything a copy of, this Mana Dork, and all of a sudden, yeah, go crazy with that. Or, of course, like any kind of a token producer as well. You can do some really crazy, awesome things with this, of course. Yeah, it's a really cool design, and I can see this one being quite popular for the right strategy out there. And it is one where, like, you can just get in your graveyard pretty quickly right away. Like, you just like, oh, okay, if I really just, like, want that game-ending part of it, I just play it, have become a copy of, you know, one of my legendary creatures, like my commander. If that's got a death trigger, great. It hits the graveyard, and I can just utilize that renew right away. So you can kind of, like, utilize the card to get to its second part on its own, which is quite nice. Next up, though, Feral Deathgorger, a 3/5 dragon for 6 mana in black. It's got an omen. I keep wanting to say adventure, but it's an omen. For 2 mana in black sorcery, put a counter into up to 1 target creature, draw a card. So you shuffle in your graveyard or library afterwards, I should say, which is quite nice to get it back. Flying Death Touch, this creature enters, exile 2 cards to a single graveyard. Again, like, unless there's, like, a very specific omen-based strategy, then I don't see, like, this card seeing too much play yet. Not even a dragon deck, obviously. It's just not all that good. But again, there's probably some weird omen combos that might happen to at some point. Very cool. Next up, Heirloom, an artifact for 2 mana in green. Tap at 1 mana of any color, space ability to cast a creature spell. Tap until end of turn. Target creature controlled power 4, greater gains trample. Whenever this creature is conduit to a player, draw a card. This is an interesting card. It's a very interesting card because it is one of those cards where I feel like Wizards keeps trying to do this sometimes, where they're trying to convince green players to maybe go away from land ramp in certain ways. Where it's like, sure, hey, look. You know, you got a creature-based strategy. All right, just use this. Use this instead of your rampant growth. Okay. Don't necessarily do that, but you can use it in addition and start using like this, you know, as a pseudo card draw kind of in that kind of a deck. I wouldn't just go up ahead and replace like all of your just land ramp, because land ramp is safer, obviously. Like a card like this is more susceptible to being removed than, say, a forest that you tutor for. It's good. It's solid, again, in a creature-based strategy, especially, again, when you've got a lot of creatures power 4 or greater. And again, if you have creatures that are going to be hitting, awesome, great, especially double strike ones. Keep in mind, you can draw twice with that, or if you get extra combats, you draw extra with that too. So, if you got a commander that's got a lot of power and needs trample, cool. Yeah, make sure you're considering this one. And if you need this like as a card advantage source for the right deck out there, it's a good one as well. But don't just go ahead and be like, wow, this is both ramp and card draw for my deck, so I'm going to start using all these kinds of cards to replace my rampant growth. No, lane ramp is safer. Stay with the lane ramp, please. But yeah, use this in addition. Moving on. Rebellious Strike, instant for 2 mana. In white, target creature gets +3 with 0 until end of turn, draw a card. I mean, outside of like feather deck kind of shenanigans, yeah, I mean, that is kind of the kind of deck that you might want to utilize, like a heroic type strategy. Other than that, yeah, I mean, not really. But yeah, it's a nice little, like, hey, pump effect / draw a card. Nice. For the right strategy out there, it can work. Or like Ink Trader Nephilim scary decks. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Any other Ink Trader Nephilim players out there with secretive Ink Trader Nephilim decks? No? Prismatic Bridge? Okay. Check out an episode on that. And yeah, probably add this card to that deck, maybe. Gross. Moving on. Hollow Merc Siege. Enchant for 2 mana in Golgari. As it enters, choose Saltire, Abzan. Saltire, whenever a counter is put on a creature you control, draw a card. Triggers only once each turn. Abzan, whenever you attack, put a counter on target attacking creature, gains Messal turn. Okay. This is one that definitely is a nice low-to-the-ground enchantment that can be flexible for the right strategy that you're utilizing it for. It can be one where, again, it just could be situation dependent, where there could definitely be decks where you can choose one or the other of this. You're like, oh yeah, well, like, if I already have, you know, my conduit of creating counters on things, great. If I've got like proliferate effects or whatever, and I have counters on things, or I've got like a commander that makes things and gets counters or whatever it is, awesome. I'll choose Sultai, and I can just have this be like a low to the ground 2 mana. Hey, yeah, make a lot of card draw, because it is, again, only once each turn, but it can happen on your opponent's turns as well. So like, yeah, if you've got ways to get counters on your opponent's turns, you could draw up to 4 cards with each trip on the table with this, which can be absolutely amazing. That being said, though, obviously the Abzan sign is nice. Getting a counter target attacking creature gain menace, that can be nice, especially ways to get creatures through, make them harder to block, take up more things. And if you got counter synergies already, like getting doubling up the counters, that kind of stuff too, it can be quite nice as well. So yeah, for a counter strategy, especially one that can just consistently get counters, this could be a good draw engine for you. And then for, you know, a backup strategy, like, oh, okay, like I just need to get counters on things, I need to make them more evasive. If you've got like a commander that already is somewhat evasive and it's like, oh, this can put it over the top, that can be quite nice as well. Very cool. Next up, Teeming Dragonstorm. Enchantment for 4 mana in white. When this creature enters, create 2/2/2 white soldier creature tokens. Whenever a dragon control enters, turn this enchantment to its owner's hand. It's an interesting type card, but how much play is it really going to see? Like, it's like, okay, cool, you get 2/2/2s for 4 mana. Not too bad. It is repeatable, but like, only if you're like in like a changeling or a dragon deck. Which in that case, You're probably not utilizing one that's like, oh, I make soldiers. Okay, why are you making soldiers with your dragon deck? Because it's fun. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you have like Masco Nexus in play, it'll just like auto return to its hand, which would be quite cool. So that could be quite fun. But yeah, Changeling type deck maybe, but outside of that, probably not. Next up, Flamehold Grappler. This is a very cool card. 3/3 Human Monk, first strike for 3 mana in Jeskai. When it enters, copy the next spell you cast this turn. When you cast it, choose targets for the copy. Keep in mind, it does not say like instant or sorcery. No. It's any spell. So yeah, a copy of a permanent spell comes a token. So this is quite nice where, again, it is an ETB without a cast trigger requirement for the ETB. So yeah, for a blink deck, you can use and abuse this to oblivion, which is crazy cool. And then essentially, whenever you're casting your next spell, again, yeah, when you cast this next spell, when you cast, copy that spell, you cast this turn, when you cast it is specific with that. So that's probably to stop like weird infinite loops with like, oh, I copy the spell, copy the spell, copy. Though obviously you can still like copy a copy spell and then copy itself, and then you just, yeah, go infinite with that. That being said, yeah, being able to just copy your next spell, that is pretty huge. The first turn you play it down, like, you're like, okay, like, even just like a little like cantrippy spell, you get extra benefits from that still. That being said, obviously, like later in the game, again, if you have like a blink effect, like a way to just use and abuse this, okay, cool, yeah, I just, whenever I need to get a really big spell and get a copy of it, again, no matter what it is, getting a token copy of it, that's huge. And of course, there's ways to use and abuse token copies of things like populate effects. Can be quite good with this. So it's a really cool card, absolutely. Well, I was going to say one relevant creature type, but Monk is semi-relevant as well, with like the Archimandrite, so there you go. Next up, Dragonstorm Globe. Again, Wizards just keeps making like these mana rocks that are like, okay, it's tempting, but do I want to make slightly less efficient mana rocks in a part of my deck? Artifact for 3, each dragon you control enters additional counter on it, tap, add 1 mana of any color. It's enticing definitely for dragon players out there, most definitely. It is definitely an enticing card, or again, like changeling tribal kind of decks. That being said, I mean, I wouldn't recommend just like replacing all of your efficient ramp. Again, like usually you want to at least have like, okay, cost 2 mana, I get, go up 1 in ramp. Except for like Soul Ring, which is broken. But yeah, being able to like, okay, rampant growth on turn 2, that is huge. Turn 3, you are going slower. And the Wizards is trying to incentivize players to go a bit slower, it does seem. It is a nice benefit. Is that additional counter going to be worth it for you? That's up for you to decide for your own specific dragon deck. Obviously, some dragon decks, yes. I'd say most probably not. I would say most this is not going to make the cut. Maybe you throw it in as like an additional, like, oh, it's kind of like an Anthem-ish. But it only helps out dragons that are coming in after it's already in place. So do keep that in mind. Obviously, if you have any like counter synergies with dragons, that's cool as well. But yeah, overall, it is interesting that Wizards is trying to entice players. And I like that they're going this direction where they're like, okay, like at 3 mana, we've got some mana rocks that aren't sufficient, but we're trying to make them, again, value-centric enough that you do consider them. It is interesting that they're going that way because, yeah, they're trying to slow things down maybe a little bit, but also, yeah, give players additional avenues. But, yeah, when it comes to, like, the more competitive decks out there, even just, like, a 3 or a 4, you're probably going to want to keep your, you're probably going to want to keep your just 2 mana rocks instead because you don't want to really get a bit slower for the most part. Next up, Dragonstorm Forecaster, 0/3 Human Scout for a single blue mana. Pay 2 taps to slide for a card named Dragonstorm Globe or Boulderborn Dragon. Reveal, open your hand, and shuffle. That's really cool. I don't think we've seen Dragonstorm Globe. Cool. I don't think we've seen Boulderborn, unless I'm missing it, or I've already said it. My apologies. But we'll get to it at some point, I'm sure. So, cool. But, yeah. Unless you're really specifically like, cool! I'm all about this Dragonstorm Globe or Boulderborn Dragon. Maybe it's the most powerful thing ever. Probably not. Then cool. It's not going to see any play. Next up. Breaching Dragonstorm. Looks like it's going to be a cycle of these. Another enchantment, but this one in red for 5 mana. Enters exile cards to the top of your library to exile a non-land card. You may cast it paying its mana cost. Sells mana values 8 or less if you don't put that card in your hand. Whenever a dragon you control enters, return this enchantment to its owner's hand. Cool. Okay, so we've seen that before, obviously. But yeah, being able to essentially, I mean, like, Cascade, but, like, Cascade +3 in a way, kind of, because it's like, oh, okay, cool. I guess Cascade +4, I guess. But yeah, being able to just go up and say, all right, I play this, I can get something that's even bigger than it off the top of my library. That could be really huge for me. And if it is a dragon, it just auto goes back to my hand, which is quite nice. So this one is better than the white one that we just saw earlier. That being said, is it going to see play? I mean, it's like a random effect that could, again, be very huge, or you could just be like, all right, I play it. Oh, I hit, yeah, this little 2 mana card that really didn't help me out all that much. Hit my counter spell. That doesn't help me. Okay. Cool. I'll wait till I play Dragon, then try it again. It's a fun thing. And again, it is one where, again, if you have a blink deck that can blink enchantments, you can do some pretty crazy things with this. Obviously, you don't even need to bring it back to your hand then. You're just like, okay, yeah, cool, all right. Blink, does it again, hit something massive, maybe even another blink spell. There's only so many ways to blink enchantments though compared to creatures, but still, maybe you turn this into a creature to blink it. There you go, that's the solve. Okay, moving on. We've got Narset's Rebuke, instant for 5 mana in red. 5 damage target creature, add Jeskai colors to the creature who dies this turn, exile instead. More of a limited card. Yeah, I'm sure there's some shenanigans you can do with it, but probably more limited. Next up. Alesha's Legacy, instant for 2 mana in black. Target creature control gains Death Touch Indestructible type turn. It's nice, but yeah, I mean, again, when it comes to like protection effects, typically there are more efficient ways to do so for a single creature. Maybe not in black necessarily, but yeah, we've got like all the feign death type effects where it's like, oh, the creature died, it came back. That's kind of like indestructibility in a way for the most part. Death Touch is a nice addition. If you really care about both Death Touch and indestructibility, awesome, utilize this card. If not, yeah, maybe utilize like a feign death type effect instead. Next up, Avenger of the Fallen, a 2/4 human warrior that is walking on fence posts for some reason, I think. I don't know. Death Touch for 3 mana in black. Mobilize X Rex the number of creature cards in your graveyard, which of course mobilize means when it attacks, create X tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature token, sacrifice be an next end step. Basically a temporary army. Or again, if you've got like shenanigans where it's like, oh yeah, cool, like Sundial the Infinite. Or I mean, obviously like the brand new commander that just like says, hey, keep your warriors around. Why not? Zergo. But still, for the most part, this is like, yeah, all right, awesome. If you've got like a graveyard-centric deck, if you've got a self-mill deck, if you've got like a sacrifice deck, we have a lot of creatures in your graveyard, this can attack and just give you a massive army. And also keep in mind, like for an aristocrat style deck, yeah, I mean, all those creatures are going to die, and that actually can be a good thing for you. That actually usually is a good thing for you because creature fodder is huge. And again, if you've got a bunch of like death triggers, you got like blood artists, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I made 10 warriors. They all die. I drain people. I probably like draw some cards off it too. Whatever, you know, I've got my aristocrat, Taste of Karlov style things. Fun, fun, fun. It's a really good card, again, for like a go-wide strategy-ish, but more so like for like a graveyard-centric, you know, you're going to have a lot of creature fodder or things in the graveyard, or self-mill. You can do a lot of work with that. And again, some really weird like shenanigans where you might be able to keep those creatures around. Or again, if you've got like a token doubler in play, you can keep around the double tokens, which can be quite nice too. So do keep that in mind. It can be a really cool card for the right deck out there. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. Make sure you comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.